Hello and thanks for watching another episode of ARFCOM News, your source for the finest two-way propaganda brought to you by TNVC.com. Today I want to start with an update to that church carry story out of New York from last week. We reported about some pastors suing the state for prohibiting guns in their churches, and right as we were editing, a temporary injunction was granted. Score one for the good guys. Also want to set things clear on the ATF's final rule on pistol braces. First of all, nothing's really changed. F-Troop has played games with publishing, and their latest story is they intend to publish the final rule in December, which means it would go into effect in April. They still seem determined to play this fun scorecard game to determine whether your short boy is a real pistol. No, they are not waiving the $200 tax to register, but they will magnanimously not put you in a cage while you wait for your form to come back. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The feds know they're unlikely to successfully defend their opinions in court, so they still aren't likely to take anyone to court over a pistol brace unless they already have a solid case on other real crimes. But what they are doing quite successfully is casting enough doubt to chill the market.
If you like seeing stuff more than not seeing stuff, take a look at our sponsor, TNVC.com, your source for quality night vision gear to make you the bump in the night.
You know, when someone says something, then follows with "but," you can usually bet everything they said before is bullshit. Like when someone says, "I don't mean to offend you, but," or "I don't normally hang out in truck stop bathrooms, but," or "I support the Second Amendment, but AR-15s are an unfair advantage," like this gigafud here.
I mean, he shot all three of them. There was no need for that.
Shoemaker does say he is for the right to bear arms and protect your home, but he doesn't agree with shooting and killing intruders.
I knew they could be punished for it, but they did not deserve to die. Brass knuckles against an AR-15, come on. Who was afraid for their life?
When you defeat all the other fuds, you have to face him with his 1911 and war crime stick. To be fair, this guy isn't thinking straight because his grandson took the room temperature challenge along with two other dudes while breaking into another person's home. But that doesn't make him any less wrong. People like him argue I value my stuff more than human life. I disagree. On the contrary, I'm willing to destroy my property by shooting through it or let it walk away without a fight if it means saving a life. But no way am I going to risk any harm to my family. I'd argue anyone willing to break into homes is the one with reckless disregard for their own safety and others. Does an AR represent an unfair advantage in a fight? You bet your ass it does. That's the point. That's not to say you should center punch 3 surprised utes.
Did you say utes?
In your kitchen like you're clearing a plate rack, even if they don't seem an immediate threat. I don't know what happened in this case. I wasn't there, but the DA said it's quite clear the homeowner's son used justifiable force, and use of force statutes in most places recognize a person can reasonably fear harm when surprised in their own home, let alone when facing several assailants. Is it possible the 3 strange masked men who broke into an occupied home with brass knuckles and a knife had no intention of harming anyone? Sure, I guess.
Unicorns and glitter!
But we can't expect people to wait to get stabbed before defending themselves in their own home. What do you think? Regardless of whether you are justified in using force, do you think you have a moral duty to try to avoid force by issuing verbal commands or leaving an area if time and distance permits, even in your own home? All the normies in New York are absolutely losing it over the city's head nerd taking responsibility for his own safety. Chief Technology Officer Matt Fraser has a carry permit, one of the OG in-club elite status permits they used to only give out to members of the apparatchik, or, you know, anyone who paid the bribe. As a loyal functionary in the NYPD's IT department, his life was deemed worthy of protection, but it likely would have been against department policy for Fraser to continue to carry as head of the Department of Information Technology, and telecommunications. Thankfully, his buddy the mayor made a new department called Office of Technology and Innovation, which Frazier now heads. And now he also gets 2 police officers who report to him, which City Hall says is definitely not a security detail. One of those anonymous sources, which was totally an actual person, not just an opinion the journalist wanted to interject while maintaining a thin veneer of objective reporting, worried it sends a terrible message. The Daily News says they filed a FOIA request to find out if the newly formed department has a similar rule, but the request hasn't been returned. Regardless of whether it violates the policy, Frazier could always just rewrite the policy. He heads up the department after all. What he can't rewrite is that floor is lava bill I keep reporting on. See, in their rush to defy the Supreme Court's decision, the ruling elite forgot to make an exception for themselves and their faithful servants. The only exemptions to the new sensitive places law are for cops, military, and licensed security guards performing their job. Now, I'm not a lawyer because fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to law school, but it sure seems to me like this guy would be violating Governor Karen Hodor's new law. What do you think? Should he get special treatment just because he works for the government? Before we get to your moment of zen, I just want to remind you to check out the Bulletproof Workshop hosted by my friend and hero, Jeff Gonzalez. Jeff is a combat veteran, respected instructor, and genuinely one of the nicest people you will ever meet. The Bulletproof Workshop is about improving human performance and features guests from all walks of life. New episodes every Tuesday. Yesterday's guest was former SEAL and TV star Ray Cash Care. As always, we'll link in the doobly-doo, so why not check out what Jeff's up to when you're finished here. And now, your moment of zen.
My legislation says there can be no more than 8 bullets in a round, okay?
Plus, we fire the whole bullet. That's 65% more bullet per bullet.
Oh, yes! You ready to break some glass, Chris?
Do it!
Oh, come on, here we go.
Hey friend, do you like pews and pew-related things? Do you want to help us keep delivering you pure, uncut American pew propaganda at the low, low price of $3.99? We literally couldn't make this show if it weren't for the generous support of TNVC.com, purveyors of the finest non-GMO night vision devices handcrafted from fine Corinthian leather in the old world style. They also have mounts, lights, training, swag, and all sorts of other barrel-aged single malt gear to make you the bump in the night. And remember, if you aren't subscribed to our channel, you make puppies cry and Captain America's disappointed. I love you.